Hi, and welcome to this week's episode hosted by Gray and Mark Law of St John's Health and Fitness and Mark Elm of Leeds Beckett University, where we take training theory and science onto the gym floor.
Hey up everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Yorkshire Fitness Podcast. We're joined again, there's me and Mark obviously sat here at St John's drinking his cappuccinos that we've just had made for us, which is nice, and we're joined obviously by his good mate Mark over at Leeds Beckett. You're at work, mate, is this your dinner hour?
Yes, kind of, yeah.
Well, yeah, same to us as well.
Yeah, it's kind of an hour, maybe longer.
So today's episode, we're now on to episode 42, and we are doing episode 2 about the pillars of health. So we've kind of, those guys, I don't know whether you've listened to the last episode, but we went through the first 4 or 5 of them, didn't we? We got to, I think I completed the last
did the episode.
one.
We did 4 pillars. We've got
4 pillars,
Yeah.
and 4 to go.
That's great. Is it worth then recapping what the 8 are, what we've talked about in part 1, and what we're going to talk about in part 2?
Great idea.
So, part 1 was the first 4, part 2 is going to be the second 4. So the 8 pillars that we think are the key for sustained health.
Yeah,
I'm going to say let's just say quickly what the pillars are all about. These are what we think, what we've all kind of learned over all of our years of experience. You a little bit more in your S&C role, looking at, like athletes, people, your lecturing jobs. Us from gym experience, working the kind of the positive changes that people make in a long-term health training status, really for them to be healthier for longer and fitter, more active lifestyle. These are kind of the things that we've put together out there, all of us. Sorry.
Yeah. So again, it's theory, it's experience, it's
Yeah.
everything kind of thrown in. So pillar 1 was exercise. Pillar 2 was diet. Pillar 3, sleep, and 4, environment. So they're the first 4 that we did in part 1. So today in part 2 is going to be recovery, lifestyle, consistency, and realism. Brilliant. So I think it's over to me. I think we're going to look at the first one, which is recovery. So I think I want to pick this one up because it's kind of, this is the S&C side of things. It's also a part of it I don't think gets into the mainstream particularly well. So I don't imagine that your most PT clients would think about recovery. They think about the exercise, then it's done. Whereas in the S&C space, we're definitely going to talk about recovery a huge amount more than we are some of the other things. So recovery. So what I always say is like training's only makes you more tired. It's the thing that happens after you train that makes you better. So we can divide that into 2 halves. One is rest and one is recovery. So rest is passive. So if I go for a nap, that is me doing nothing. But in that nap, I'm going to have some kind of restoration. And we can go back to our sleep as part of that kind of passive things that we do to get better. We talked a lot about sleep over the last 41 episodes. So recovery are the things that I actively and deliberately choose to do to help me recover. And why am I bothered about recovery at all? Why do I care? Why should anybody care? As you mentioned there, Gray, it's about how we can do exercise for longer later in life. So how can I do more now? And how can I keep on doing as much as I possibly can do as long as possible? So if I can do one session on Monday, and we've all had this, I think you've talked some stories before about your old-fashioned pre-season days when you're rugby players, and that session absolutely destroys you, and you get what's called DOMS, delayed onset of muscle soreness, which basically, it's not an injury, but it bloody well feels like it.
Yes, we're just going through a Bulgarian split squat phase of us training. So we are hammering the Bulgarians. So we're witnessing this DOMS on a regular basis again at the minute, really brutally.
Just like to clarify, no Bulgarians were hammered in this podcast. So what I'm talking about here is the things you can do that not just speed up the process, but enhance the process so you get fitter, better from those exercises, but accrue less damage. You don't get as beaten up by it. You don't get as broken by it. You don't feel like it's taking a toll on your body as much. So whilst it kind of, I'm talking about recovery, the 2 biggest things within the recovery space are going to be diet and sleep. Okay, so whilst we talked about diet and sleep, just for overall general health, it also are massively things about promoting recovery. But you can also start to look at other tools you can have. So things like looking after soft tissue. So like foam rolling, stretching, mobility, and then like active recovery. So if you've done your Bulgarians today or yesterday, and you're gonna be sore, you're gonna be fatigued. Active recovery is choosing the next day to choose to do something that isn't for fitness development. You're not trying to get fitter. You don't deliberately go and make yourself tired by doing it, but you are doing it to help the process of recovery. So that could be going for a walk or a bike ride or something which is low impact. And by low impact, I mean hitting the ground hard, a swim. So in the contact sports rugby, we used to try to get swimming sessions in as often as we could. We didn't have a swimming pool, so that wasn't always easy. But I'm sure you guys have heard the stories, day after game day in the pool, or even after the game, we're in the pool, we're actively choosing to recover. So we've got some things like getting that. You got the percussion guns out there, the Thera guns, you got the foam rollers, you've got all sorts of torture devices you can go and buy for that kind of stuff. And as you get older, he says, as somebody in our mid-40s, like I am constantly battling scar tissue and knots and trigger points and all sorts of things. We don't always have a physio on hand. I mean, you two do now, but Joe do this, and there you go. But you kind of, it's easier to get these kind of bumps and bruises and niggles and tightness. And if they're left to kind of grow and manifest and get worse, it becomes much harder to exercise. It really does. And being proactive about preventing them getting worse and keeping on top of things is a really good way to make sure that you are able to maintain the thing that we'll get to shortly, which is consistency. So it's not about every day hammering yourself. It's about putting some time in the diary to recover from the times where you do hammer yourself. So you might have 2 or 3 hard sessions a week. You can't have 6 hard sessions a week. It doesn't work like that. But you can have 3 hard sessions a week and 2 lower intensity sessions a week, where the purpose is to get better after the last one that you've just done.
Yeah.
And as easy as, can we add 15 minutes of cool down at the end? So a bit of mobility, a bit of stretching. Most people, you don't need to stretch before sessions. Mobility, yes. Stretching, no. But if you know that you're tight and your shoulders are tight and your legs are tight, adding a bit of passive stretching at the end is probably a good way to start that recovery from happening. We've done a couple of episodes about breathing. Doing some focused breathing at the end of the session is a good way to start the recovery process from happening. So that's my thoughts on kind of why recovery is important as part of a long-term health strategy.
Yeah, like you say, as we age, we all know that because of how we feel after training. I don't think the DOMs, I don't get any worse now I'm older, 20 years on since I was playing rugby. I wouldn't say your DOMs are not worse, but it's how quick you recover from them DOMs. Like when you're 20, in your mid-20s, you might have DOMs for a day, then you can kind of battle on, and then the next day you're good to go again. Whereas now, it might last 4 days. You can hardly, some days after, we've been so sore. Yeah. I've hardly been able to walk for like 4 days afterwards. As body is just struggling to recover as quick. So it's really personal, isn't it? And like I said, some people might really like to have a bit of a stretch after a session. Yeah. Some people might like to go, and it's totally. But I personally don't get. I don't feel like I get anything from it whatsoever. I might do a bit more, like you say, really. I like to go for a walk with dog if I can after we've had a beast of a session, or just do a bit of something to keep moving. But it's totally personal, isn't it? You do what after a training session, if you know it's a big one, you do whatever you feel it helps you on your recovery. That might be stretching. So yeah, no, it's a great shout though. But yeah, people do need to be aware
on the recovery. And although that we were on about this, I think it was last week, because we try and train. We do as gym sessions like 5 days a week really, and they're not, like you said, they're not all like super intense. But we train quite hard
every day.
But we try and do something 5 days a week while we're here Monday to Friday, and then running and that away from gym and whatever on a weekend. We've found, I found, especially last week, as you're getting older, and maybe not even as you're getting older, but we've started missing odd day through the week. It might be for something like this, or recording a podcast, or there's other stuff going on, and just missing that one day. But the following day, then you seem like you've got a little bit more in tank to just push it. And I also feel like my body responds a bit better from it as well. Your muscles fit, rather than just feeling tired from session as you start going. I've been thinking, I can actually fit, like I feel a bit more benefit from that session then after, like from having that day in between and building it, because it's really easy. You talk about it, just keep digging. Like we all get into that cycle, just every session's got a bit thing. We try saying it to us members sometimes to change your training up, because we offer different range of classes, but certain people just love the hit Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you know what I mean? It's like, like try just a weight session, or try Jay's core session, or try, you know what I mean? And it's just doing a little bit of variety in it through your week and getting other things in to recover. So yeah, so I think it's massively important. I think as we get older, it's probably even more important, because you can't just keep beating yourself with a stick, can you? But you can't keep beating them Bulgarians.
You can't beating yourself with a stick is part of your recovery strategy.
Yeah, that might work. Yeah, maybe that's the way. So
that's what
I've got my beating stick here. For those people who are watching this on YouTube, here I've got my beating stick for recovery.
We did a podcast on recovery, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
We did.
So that's recovery. So
then it leads on to me again, then, doesn't it?
Yeah. So Mark's going to talk about lifestyle a little bit now.
So the lifestyle, really, this is another one now where I suppose we just tie in probably a little bit of everything in together. So like your lifestyle is how everything fits within what you do, and making it so that you can become more consistent, which is like what we're talking about then. So your lifestyle is trying to find that point, that tipping point where you can keep it going. So it's like building things into your day that you will stick to. So it might be like Grace says, it might be building in that you go for a walk. If you've got a dog, you do your dog walk. And a part of your lifestyle, a healthy part of your lifestyle, it ties in with your diet, making the choices all the time, making the better choices the most of the time. You know what I mean? So like you're making your food from scratch at home. It means you sleep. You're trying to go to bed at a consistent time every night, most of the time. And it sort of leads into, so this will double up a bit, I think, with like when Gray talks about consistency. We just spoke then. I went to listen to, well, it was a presentation do, but Jamie Jones-Buchanan from Leeds Rhinos were talking, and he said something that I just think hits home. I've been telling his clients. He said that he built his career from being consistently average, right? And I think it's number one, I think it's a great message to kids, because you don't have to be the superstar and scoring 5 tries a game if you're in a sporting context, or 5 goals a game or whatever. So he was saying that like he never scored above like 7.3 out of 10, but he never scored below 7.2. Like, so if we take it that built, so consistency and lifestyle builds into that. If your lifestyle can be consistently like that, hitting them things, so 7, 8 out of 10 times things that you do are the right things, like the better food choices. You're getting your training in right, you're getting your recovery, you're getting your sleep. And if you can be consistently like that, that is where we need to be. Whereas there's no point being a 9 out of 10 in January. We're coming up to end of year. We've just been talking about that. No point being 9, 10 out of 10 in January for 4 weeks or 3 weeks, going into February, and by end of Feb, you're at 3. And then you pick it back up again because you're going on holiday, and then you drop back down. Mark, you said that perfect thing where you were on about like physiological.
I said a perfect thing.
Well, you were talking thing because you're not as educated as us, but so it's where like if you starve yourself for something, we are programmed to then feast and want more, and it goes to the shred like we've just been talking about somebody who do these shreds, and they go on, and 8 weeks they hammer it. But what happens after 8 weeks? You go to, like, you look at bodybuilders, like for the lead up to a comp, they're getting ready, the strip, the shred right down to thing. So what are they doing? They're just craving cakes and sugars and fats and everything that they deprive themselves. If you can get your lifestyle somewhere there where you stay the same, that's what his body likes, doesn't it? His body wants to be homeostasis, that it wants to be level. It doesn't like being up and down. Up and down is, like small amounts of stress, like stressing it through your training session, recover, but level, and it's like, like it fits into periodization. If you want to go into S&C, it fits into everything. You need to go through way, don't you? But you want to be, your body wants to be like that, doesn't it?
So, you just said a key word there, Matt, stress, and I think, you probably see this slightly probably more from most of your kind of range of clients. I just think lifestyle and stress, I think, can become kind of almost like a paired word. So imagine that if you've got your work gives you stress and you can't do much about that. But then do you want to find ways about sleep, diet, exercise, and all these other things that are also causing you stress? So imagine that you go to the gym and you're like, I'm going to absolutely destroy myself today. Well, that's actually really stressful. Like physically and psychologically, that's stressful. And then you're going to stress about the food that you're eating and the calories you're taking in and all. So for me, the lifestyle is the sum total of like stress that you find in your body, find in your life. And some things are external. You can't have much influence over them. So if your bills are X and you get paid Y, that is going to be stressful. Fuck all I can do about that. But you can choose how you exercise, how you eat, all those other things in ways that you either do or don't find stressful. So if you're like hyper stressed in your life, and your lifestyle is a very stressful life, like don't go around choosing exercise modalities that make you more stressed. Like don't sign up for like a 10K race and then stress about the time of that race. Because you're just adding and compounding and adding more, and then worry about, I've got to eat X amount of carbs to fuel the time. So if I don't fuel the time, I don't run this distance, I don't run that time, I don't run that. Like, you're adding and adding and adding and adding more and more stress, and that can't be sustained. And that's what we kind of talk about, isn't it? So,
yeah.
I don't mean that you should not think about food, you should not think about exercise, but you're going to kind of think, how much total stress can I add to myself? And can I find ways of exercising and getting more sleep and getting better nutrition, which is making my life easier, not more stressful?
Yeah.
So this might be, if I'm hyper stressed, like doing a high stressing exercise session is not going to be the best thing for you. So is it more social? Is it going for like a group running club where we all just kind of plod around together and we're generally kind of physically more active together, and that's quite sociable, and I don't find that stressful. I'm not worried about time or intervals or pacing or anything like that. I'm just running with people that I like running with, and that's it. You might be, well, actually, you manage the stress of your life a bit better, and actually you can sign up for 10K, but it's then what you kind of attach to the stress of that becomes important. But
it's finding that balance for you, isn't it? It's
absolutely, yeah. So I think you've kind of teed Gray up brilliantly for consistency.
Perfectly. I'm just sat here waiting to go.
I can see you're like a coiled spring.
I am. I can keep my consistency pillar now quite short and sharp because it has pretty much been covered there.
It does come in with it.
The one thing that I want to add to this is you're going to love this. Consistency is the glue that holds, or the cement, the mortar that holds all the pillars together. Without consistency, these all fall away. So unless we're repeating them, whether it's going to the gym, it's your training sessions, I would say my exercise is very consistent, and it has been for 20 plus years. I've done a similar amount of gym sessions. I've probably done a similar amount of runs. My exercise is pretty similar, and it has been consistently, week in, week out, over every year, over a big span of 20 odd years since I retired from rugby.
We've never shredded.
We've never done a shred. We were chatting earlier, so I can still sort of nail it. My bench press, my squat, my deadlift, all my main lifts are probably, I'm not that much further behind where I was 20 years ago as a rugby league player. And I would say that is just down to, it's not because we train ridiculously tough, but we consistently deadlift. We consistently, we always keep every level of training in our diary every week. And so that's just consistency. That's from an exercise. So to be successful in anything in life, you have to be consistent, whether it's work, whatever goal it is in life, whether you're a sportsman, sports person, whether it's to be successful in your job, you have to be consistent. You've got to turn up for work every day. You can't have time off. You're never going to get that promotion if you're off on sick all the time. Consistency. So I just thought that glue that holds everything else together, was a good little kind of thing to add into the program. Other than that, Mark's already covered it. The consistency comes into not just your gym and your training; it comes into your food. Consistently, I'll use my saying again. I'm quite boring. I consistently eat mainly good food. Yeah, on a weekend you might go out. This weekend we're going out. It's Christmas. We'll be having mulled wine and we'll be going out drinking, and we might have a takeaway. But most of the time, the 80-20 rule is great, isn't it? If you think of 80% of your life is really good, you exercise regularly, you eat well, you drink plenty of water, it's good and consistent, you can afford them little bits of luxury. Where it falls apart is the inconsistency, where you might have a month off. We see some people who train hard leading up to a holiday, train really hard, 3-4 sessions a week. They'll kind of lose weight, they'll be really on it, and you think, oh wow, this person's really made some changes, they're doing well. They go on holiday, we don't see them for 3 months after. It's not, I mean, I'm going a bit over the top, probably 3 months,
Yeah.
but we have had it. It doesn't happen a lot because our kind of clients here, we're a smaller base. We haven't got access to thousands of members. So I would say majority of people who come in are consistent, but we have had it over years, and they come back and they've just they're in worse shape than they were before they started training, before the holiday. So it's just like they're consistently just resetting, putting weight on, they're unfit, they're out of shape, the blood pressure's back high, then they'll train really hard, everything's kind of looking well, all the markers are coming down, boom, nailed it, but come back, everything's reset. So there's no consistency there, is there? So success, whether it's health, fitness, work, consistency must be there.
Yeah, I think we just had a chat before we started about what's the difference between your worst day and your best day, and make that difference as small as it possibly can be. So don't make your bad day horrific, and don't make your good day, and then don't try to compensate for that by having unbelievably stupid, restricted day the following day.
Don't try and be perfect, but don't be shit. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Be consistently average.
The message of today is don't be shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the example I gave, and I tried to kind of use a bit of a tool I think most people in most fitness spaces would understand. If you're trying to lose weight, whatever that term means, we can unpick that in another episode. But if you had 100 calorie deficit every day for a year, would you notice that on a daily basis? Probably not. How much weight do you think you could lose if every single day? And again, we can have an average of that. That doesn't mean you have to lose it every day, but if, on average, if you had 100 calorie deficit every day for a year, you would lose an extraordinary amount of weight. And that's just by having like a consistent 100k deficit a day. It could even be 50, actually. Like that's a lot of weight to lose in a year just by having a small, consistent deficit every single day.
We live in a world, though, don't we, where people want instant results. They want to do that 8-week shred, but that's wrong.
And that leads me into great realism.
Fantastic.
I was like pros today. Like pros.
Planned it.
So realism, and I suppose what I think we mean by realism is I think it's the thing that undermines or prevents us doing the other 7. So if we have unrealistic aspirations of what we can achieve, and then we don't achieve them, it sets us up to kind of give up. And also we kind of chase things and break ourselves in the aspiration of trying to do something. So, for example, if I want to lose a stone of body fat, that's the goal I set for myself. Okay. Is that realistic? Well, actually, you have to work out how much body fat you got to lose in the first place and whether that's good or bad for you, because you have to have some. Our bodies use it for really important purposes. Okay, but what is a realistic amount of time for that to take place in? And what is the realistic approach in doing it? So as you just mentioned there, you can have these crash V-shred diets and try to get rid of it in the space of weeks, months. But the reality is that, again, something we talked about just before we started recording, things like diet fatigue and the psychological punishment you're going through. Every day you're in extreme deficit, your brain is fighting back against that and is desperate to bring in more calories because that isn't how we're supposed to live. Or we are, actually, that's not true. We are supposed to live like that. We're just not supposed to live in a world we have so many calories available to us on a day-to-day basis.
That's the difference in it. That's from where we've evolved from. That, like you say, when that is how we will have lived years ago.
And so many poor quality calories, not just the calories, is it?
So be realistic, have aspirations and have goals and have targets, absolutely. So, but be realistic about how far you can get in your journey, whether that's how much you can lift, how far you can run, how fast you can run, how much weight you can lose. Yes, have some aspirations, have some goals, have some ambition, but have a sense of realism about it. And also have some realism about the kind of time, the time it takes and the process you can apply. So if you know that you have a very, very busy, hectic, stressful lifestyle, and that is, you've got a stressful job, okay? That is your job. You can't just quit and be a monk, okay? You've got a job. You've got 2 kids, okay? those are true and real things impacting your life. Does that mean that impacts your time to train, your energy to train, how much you can achieve? Yeah, of course it does. So just kind of scale your ambitions relative to what you can do. Because if you try to have these ridiculous ambitions that are unrealistic, every time you try to get closer to them and you don't make the progress you think you're going to make, or the speed of progress you think you're going to make, it's demotivating, and it just pushes you towards giving up and not being consistent. And it's only until you kind of go, right, I'm just going to go. And this is one of the James Clear habits and process versus products things we talked about way back when we started. If you had like a consistent daily process, it's amazing what you can achieve.
Yeah.
But you're just not starting out from trying to chasing rainbows. You're just going, right, I'm just going to kind of turn up. If you're realistically going to say, I'm going to train twice a week, and for 6 out of the 7 days, I'm going to have a 100 to 200 calorie deficit per day. It'd be amazing what you can achieve over 6 months, over 12 months. But it's the realistic approach to it rather than I'm going to go and do this V-shred diet that I see on social media and lose 2 kilos in a day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's,
any sort of goal setting, it's a big section of the SMART goal setting, isn't it? The realism, the realistic part. If you're just overreaching, you're just not going to do it. You're setting yourself up for failure, and then you're starting from scratch again.
But we have done episodes on this, haven't we? But the focusing on if a win is hitting the processes, if that's your ticks, your little dopamine hits and everything, then you're constantly doing well, aren't you? The other thing's a byproduct of it. But if all that you're focused on is the result at end, without the other bits, you're demotivated because you don't. It's just impossible. You're not going to jump from a 60 kg to a 100 kg squat, or you're not going to drop from weighing 100 kg to 80 kg. Are you? Do you know, like in weight terms, if you want to lose weight, you've got to. It's all about whatever it is, sticking to getting into the process of it, just getting and enjoying that side of it, and knowing that every time you do it and every little bit that you do works towards it like that. 100 calories a day, yeah, 100 calories a day, it's not that big a deal, but it's massive. But a walk every day. I'm going to go out and do a 10-minute walk every day. Yeah, that 1 10-minute walk doesn't do out, does it? Hey, well, that was James Clear, wasn't it? Whether hitting a rock, you hit a rock 100 times, then it breaks. Was it the 100th hit that did it, or was it the build-up of 100 hits? And it's that same thing, in it, just building it in. And yeah, we sound quite good, don't we? We sound like we know what we're about.
Hey, we're 42
I'll
deep
tell
here,
you what,
guys.
we're
We're getting
more
better.
than 4 listens this week.
Talking about consistency, let me go back to consistency. Who were the water? Who come up with the bucket of water analogy? Who were that? If you throw a bucket of water on a rock, it just splashes against it and disappears. But if you constantly drip 1 drop of water on that rock over a long period of time, it will carve a hole through that rock. Consistent drops rather than
Message number 2, be a drip.
Be a drip. As long as it's a consistent drip.
Yeah. Don't be shit and be a drip.
Yeah, just going back to realism, and this I think Ken feeds us into what we might be talking about in our next episode, is being realistic about what impact the effects you're looking for can have. So if you say that I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to lose a stone. I'm going to lose a stone because I'm going to feel better about myself. Because again, I'm sure you've heard that 100,000 times. If what makes you don't feel great about yourselves doesn't change, you can lose as much weight as you want. It won't change. I'm going to run I'm going to run a 10K race because I feel a sense of achievement. Okay, so then what's next? Because once you've achieved it, be realistic about there's going to be another thing and another thing and another thing. So be realistic about the reasons why you're doing it. If you're chasing a sense of fulfillment, this number that you put at the end, what does it mean if you do or don't achieve it? And I suppose that's when we come back to this. I think the people who are better at sustaining a healthier lifestyle are less end goal in mind and more day-to-day process driven. Yeah. I like doing this today. That's why I'm doing it today.
Yeah, Mark, away from exercise, but the same sort of thing. It's like when people go, say for the job, if I could just earn X amount of pounds a year, then I'll be happy. You know what I mean? And then they get to
Yeah.
that salary, and then you get used to being at that salary, and then you need to earn another thing. Or I just want that bigger house, or I want. There's no such thing, is there? It's just getting to a point where you've got to just enjoy each day and the process of everything that you're doing, haven't you? Rather than getting caught up into that end thing, because there's not one thing. You're not going to reach a point and go, that's it. I'm happy. I've settled. Because it just don't work like that, does it? You've got to accept the whole thing. So you've got to accept the lifestyle, the consistency, and all them things put together, and being real about it.
Yeah, and we're not saying that you shouldn't have a sense of achievement, and you shouldn't have goals, you shouldn't have aspirations, but it's being realistic about. It's about being realistic about kind of why they are the goal, and what you think achieving that goal is going to do for you.
Yeah.
So I think it's a personal thing for me as well. I'm sure we'll talk about it in the next episode, which I'm sure we'll introduce shortly. Is if you lose lots of weight, how does that make you feel about you? Because if the implication is if you lose loads of weight, I feel really great now. What happens as soon as you put 1 kilo back on, or 2 kilos back on, or 3 kilos back on? I'm going, why does that make a difference to you as a person? And that's the kind of the psychology, the mental side of things, as opposed to purely the physical side of things. Because then you have to kind of be a bit realistic with yourself about why you're doing what you're doing, why you're making the choices that you're making.
You could talk about it all day. I was just saying that
you could.
Yeah, but it is a bit. Sorry, but we're both going in then. But it's a little bit like you should be happier being the type the James Clear thing and the Atomic Habits. It was brilliant. I'm the type of person who does this. Do you know what I mean? Rather than all being on the end goal. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm a person who eats well, chooses to eat well, or I'm a person who exercises every day and that kind of thing. So.
I think that tees it up, like I said. I think that's a great place to end this episode because before we know it, we're going to start talking about what we're going to discuss on the next episode, which is the psychology part of things. And it's exactly how you've just ended this episode down there. You've just rounded that up nicely. So we'll call it a day there, and we'll prepare for Belly for his next episode. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we've mentioned it a couple of times there. So our next episode we have a psychotherapist. I believe that's his official title. John Bell is going to talk to us about, or talk with us about self-image, self-worth, body image, and how all those things combine in either a positive or slightly unhealthy way. And I'm sure that will resonate with a huge amount of the personal training, fitness community who probably start with a personal image issue.
Yeah. Definitely,
goal.
Yeah, and I think it's probably real. Having a little chat with him, which we did, didn't we? We had a catch up with him last week. I think just that little chat with him, it opens questions up to your own. Never mind to clients. It's like, oh my god, I know what you mean by that. So I'm really looking forward to listening.
I think we've all got us on, haven't we? We've all got us on.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it should be a great episode. I'm looking forward to it myself. So it'll be good.
So make sure you come back for the next one. Right. So I think that's it. So. Cheers, everybody, and see you next time.
Cheers, all. See ya.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked the episode, we'd like you to share with us that on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. You can listen again on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Please leave us a rating and a review, and any comments would be more than appreciated. And hopefully, you'll tune back next time for our next episode.
The Yorkshire Fitness Podcast.